Every day, our life is a story written by the word if. If I study today, I will pass my exam. If I had $1 million, I would travel the world. This small two-letter word is the key to talking about our future plans and our biggest dreams. It is the language of choices and consequences. But there are different kinds of if sentences in English, and using the wrong one can completely change your meaning from a realistic plan to an impossible dream. What if you could master this powerful tool? Welcome back to our series, English Grammar Unlocked. I'm your host, Scarlett. Today, we are exploring one of the most useful and creative tools in English communication, conditional sentences. In this episode, we will turn a grammar lesson into an adventure. First, we will follow a character named Alara on her journey through an enchanted forest to understand the first conditional, the language of real possibilities. Second, we will continue with Alara as she imagines a different world, learning the second conditional, the language of dreams. And finally, for our language focus, we will master 10 essential vocabulary words about choices and break down the specific structures so you can use these sentences with confidence. Part 1. The path ahead, the first conditional. Our story begins in the enchanted forest of choices. We meet our hero, a young traveler named Alara. She has arrived at a crossroads, a place where the path splits into two directions. In her hand, she holds a magical map. This map doesn't show her the destination, but it tells her the real, possible consequences of her choices. Alara looks at the path on her right. It is a dark and stormy path. The map says, if you take the stormy path, you will get wet and cold. Now, she looks at the path on her left. It is bright and sunny. The map says, if you take the sunny path, you will find a beautiful river. Let's pause Alara's story right here. The magical map is speaking in the first conditional. We use the first conditional to talk about a real and possible situation in the future. It's about a realistic cause and effect. Taking the stormy path is a real possibility. And if that happens, the consequence, getting wet and cold, is also a real possibility. The structure is always the same. The if part, which we call the if clause, uses the present simple tense. The result part, which we call the main clause, uses the future with will plus the base form of the verb. Let's look at the structure. If plus present simple. Will plus base verb. If it rains tomorrow, I will take my umbrella. This is a real possibility. If I study hard for the test, I will pass. This is a realistic plan. If I have free time this weekend, I will call you. The map gives Alara one more piece of advice for the sunny path. If you don't cross the river before sunset, it will be too dark to continue your journey. This shows us the negative form. We just use don't or doesn't in the if clause. You can also switch the order of the sentence. For example, you will find a beautiful river if you take the sunny path. Notice that when the if clause comes second, we don't need a comma in the middle of the sentence. Alara thinks about her choices. The consequences are clear and realistic. She wants to see the river, so she decides to take the sunny path. Part 2. The world of dreams, the second conditional. Alara is now walking on the beautiful sunny path. The birds are singing and the flowers are blooming. After walking for an hour, she sits down under a large old tree to rest. As she sits there, she closes her eyes and begins to daydream. She is no longer thinking about her real plans. She is now thinking about an imaginary, unreal world. She thinks to herself, "If I had wings, I would fly over this entire forest." Let's pause her dream. This sentence is very different. This is the second conditional. Does Alara have wings? No, of course not. Is it a real possibility that she will grow wings? No. This is a hypothetical or an unreal situation. We use the second conditional to talk about dreams, wishes, and situations in the present or future that are very unlikely or impossible. This is where the grammar gets a little tricky, but it's very important. Look at the structure. The if clause uses the past simple tense. The main clause uses would plus the base form of the verb. The structure is if plus past simple, would plus base verb. This is the most confusing part for learners. We are using a past tense verb, like had, to talk about a dream in the present or future. This is a special rule for the second conditional. It signals that we are leaving reality and entering the world of imagination. Let's listen to more of Alara's dreams. She thinks, "If this forest were a magical kingdom, I would be its queen. And if I knew the secret password, the trees would open a hidden door." Let's talk about the verb to be. In formal or correct grammar for the second conditional, we use were for all subjects, including I, he, she, and it. So, if I were you, or if she were a queen. In informal spoken English, you will often hear people say, "if I was," but learning "if I were" is a great habit. The difference between the first and second conditional is the difference between reality and imagination. Let's compare first conditional, reality. If I have enough money, I will buy a ticket to London. This is a real, possible plan. Second conditional, imagination. If I had $1 million, I would buy a private jet. This is a dream, an unreal situation right now. Part 3. Language focus. Now, let's move on to our language focus. First, our 10 new vocabulary words for today's adventure. Our first word is conditional. A conditional is a sentence that expresses a condition, usually starting with if. For example, today we are learning about first and second conditional sentences. Another example is, his offer is conditional on receiving funding. Our second word is consequence. A consequence is the result or effect of a particular action. For example, the map showed Alara the consequence of each choice. Another example is, he must face the consequences of his actions. Our third word is hypothetical. Hypothetical means based on a possible idea or situation, not on something that is real. For example, the second conditional is used for hypothetical situations. Another example is, she asked me a hypothetical question about what I would do. Next, we have to imagine. To imagine means to form a picture or idea of something in your mind. For example, we use the second conditional to imagine a different reality. Another example is, can you imagine life without the internet? Our fifth word is path. A path is a track that is made for people to walk along. For example, Alara had to choose between the sunny path and the stormy path. Another example is, we followed the path through the forest. The sixth phrase is crossroads. A crossroads is a place where two or more roads meet. It is also a metaphor for a point in your life where you must make an important decision. For example, Elara stood at a crossroads in the forest. Another example is, she is at a crossroads in her career. Our seventh word is outcome. An outcome is the final result of an activity or process. For example, the outcome of her choice was that she found the river. Another example is, it is difficult to predict the outcome of the election. Next, we have realistic. Realistic means representing things in a way that is true to life. For example, the first conditional is used for realistic future plans. Another example is, you need to set realistic goals for your English learning. Our ninth word is unlikely. Unlikely means not probable or not likely to happen. For example, the second conditional is for situations that are impossible or very unlikely. Another example is, it is unlikely that he will arrive on time. And our final word is decision. A decision is a choice that you make after thinking about it. For example, Elara's decision was to take the sunny path. Another example is, I have to make a big decision about my future. Now, for our grammar focus, let's do a final review of first and second conditionals. Let's put them side by side in a simple chart. First conditional. Its job is to talk about real future possibilities. The structure is if plus present simple. Will plus base verb. If I study, I will pass. Second conditional. Its job is to talk about unreal or dream situations in the present or future. The structure is if plus past simple, would plus base verb. If I had wings, I would fly. Remembering the job and the structure for each one is the key to mastering them. Part 4. Practice tips for the 4 skills. Now, how can you practice making choices in English? For listening, listen to a song about dreaming or wishing. A great example is the song If I Were a Boy by Beyoncé, or A Million Dreams from the movie The Greatest Showman. Listen carefully for all the if I cried sentences and notice if they are about dreams or real possibilities. For speaking, play the what if game with your AI tutor. Use your voice. Your challenge is to ask your AI 3 interesting hypothetical questions using the second conditional. For example, if you could have any superpower, what would you choose? Then, answer the questions that it asks you. For reading, find a travel blog about someone planning a future trip. Read it and look for first conditional sentences where the writer talks about their real plans. For example, if the weather is good tomorrow, we will go hiking. And for writing, this is a perfect exercise for your journal. I want you to write 2 types of sentences. First, write 2 sentences about your real plans for next weekend using the first conditional. Then, write 2 sentences about your dream. Vacation using the second conditional part 5. Your next action. Today we explored the powerful word if. It is one of the most important and creative words in any language. It allows us to plan for a realistic future, and it gives us the freedom to dream of a magical one. You now have the grammatical tools to express both your real-world plans and your beautiful imagination. As we conclude, let's quickly summarize our journey today. First, we followed Elara's story and learned that the first conditional is for real, future possibilities. Second, we entered her world of dreams and saw that the second conditional is for unreal hypothetical situations. We also learned 10 essential vocabulary words for this topic. As a review, those words were conditional, consequence, hypothetical, to imagine, path, crossroads, outcome, realistic, unlikely, and decision. Now, I have a final question for you. Let's practice the second conditional together. If you had one superpower, what would it be? Share your dream with us in the comments section below. If you are committed to making this lesson a part of your life, show your energy by smashing that like button. Be a hero for a friend by sharing this video with someone who loves to dream. And to lock in your commitment to learning, subscribe and smash that notification bell so you don't miss our next grammar adventure. Remember, your English is a tool to build your future, both the real one and the one you dream of. Until next time, take care and happy learning.